Hello, and welcome to the final episode of the Background Noise Spooky Month Jamboree, where today we will learn that man is the warmest place to hide in the depths of the Arctic. And we're going to talk about John Carpenter's The Thing. And just before anybody says anything, that man is the warmest place to hide was the movie's tagline. So, that definitely did not come from me. And, you can get your disgusted, shivers out now. And, well, if you don't know, I'm Joseph.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Joe.
And yeah, we're going to be talking about The Thing. We all watched it a little bit ago. I was the only one who had seen it, so that was that was interesting seeing these guys react and all. Again, it wasn't like, is a demented viewing of me just staring at them while they cringed or anything. No. It seems from the consensus that everybody enjoyed it. What do you guys have to say about that?
At first, I just want to say it's a nice change of pace for Joseph to have watched something before us.
I know, right?
So as opposed to him getting caught up right before we watch something, right before we're recording, he's actually already seen this.
He actually did his homework. I'm so proud of him.
I like to, overcompensate again. Haven't seen a lick of Hocus Pocus, and now here I am about to, drop all the knowledge bombs on The Thing. And speaking of knowledge bombs, why don't we start things with a little no spoilers, just like a little, synopsis of the film before, again, it's like this, and, per warning, this is, I honestly don't know our audience range. Again, I'm pretty sure there's no 5-year-olds listening to this or anything, but it's like this is from 82, and back in 82, our ratings were babies. They had just started, so
yeah, right.
This is John Carpenter's sci-fi horror. Sci-fi horror? I would say masterpiece, and kind of again masterpiece for the director. Where the film focuses on 12 men who are stuck in an Antarctic camp in the winter of 82. And after finding that their neighboring Norwegian camp has come under some kind of incident, they realize that not everything is as it seems. And there may be something among them. I didn't say among us. Among them. Oh, I mean, I just said it. All right, fine.
Isn't that literally the?
Got it. We're done.
Isn't that literally like the inspiration for that game?
In a way, yeah. Just a little bit of a Moogus.
They're just less angry.
Less. What is it? Shape shifty. Oh, there it is. Spoilers. Oh well. Well, again, this movie's from 82. If you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it. And if you have, or if you've even heard of it, you already know what's going on. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Do we want to just go right into it, or do you want to talk about what our thoughts were before, like not having seen it at all, like our pre-watch expectations kind of thing, or?
Well, that's a great idea, Jack. Again, first episode hosting, probably first and last. But again, what did you guys think before you saw the film?
I knew that it was about a team of Americans in Antarctica, and there was some kind of alien, supernaturally, extraterrestrially something or other, something that wasn't human, that could transform into people, and they all start suspecting each other of being this creature. And it's a famous older psychological horror movie about who can you trust and the nature of humanity when you don't know who you can trust. And I knew that most of the people probably died, because obviously that's how that would end.
I guess pretty similar to Joe, maybe not as much. I knew it was a John Carpenter film. I knew it was a horror film. With it being a horror film, I guess I kind of assumed, probably most people were going to die. I knew with the ending, I didn't know exactly what the ending was. I knew it made a few lists. I think I maybe saw a Watch Mojo video at some point where it's like it made the list of like most ambiguous endings. Like it doesn't really resolve itself super well, and it's like it's if ambiguous is the right word. It's very open-ended. It's, it's almost like the ending of Inception, where it has the top spinning, and they don't know whether or not, it's a dream or reality. It's kind of one of those ending where it's like it has some questions that people have debated.
Oh yeah, and that is definitely, again, it's like that. In addition to a list of things that we're going to get into, just kind of like the timeline of the film and the ending of the film is been fuel for discussion for years. At this point, almost it's almost 40 years. Coming up next year will be the 40-year anniversary. And again, I guess we could have waited until then to watch it, but here we are. What is it, contrarians or whatever? But yeah, those were definitely some minimal impressions, and that is what made this viewing so much better. But yeah, at this point we are going to probably get into spoiler territory, so if you want to watch the film, make sure you
Ask your parents.
Ask your parents. Lock up your pets.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And spoiler noise. All right, how about we start with just, I don't know, definitely don't want to go scene by scene because we'll be here all night, but I don't know, just let's go with the opening, with first 10 minutes, initial reaction.
There was a fantastic dog performance.
Yeah.
Oh yes, very good boy. Oh
yeah, I think that was the most interesting, amusing thing after the fact. Is like it starts off with the dog being chased by people in a helicopter firing at it, and for Jack and I, our reaction was, "Oh, look at that good boy! Look at that good boy running across the snow."
First words of the thing were, in fact, "Oh, that's a good boy," and I said, "Yeah, yeah, he is. Yeah."
It turns out he was not a good boy.
That was indeed the least good boy there was.
The only dog that was not a good dog, Brett. The only one that was less than 10 out of 10.
But the dog performance, yeah, that was pretty good. And again, I'm just gonna another knowledge bomb. I know we were gonna save this for a little later in, but what is it? The actor that played Clark, again, the dog handler, him and the like actual dog's handler, who I think was named. Oh, there go my notes. Well, anyway, they actually found out that the dog was like mostly wolf. Again, it's of course a wolf dog, but it was mostly wolf, and the guy who played Clark was kind of, I wouldn't say he was method acting, but since his character was kind of the more isolated, more kind of not really outcast, that kind of only hung out with the dogs, he wound up just spending most of the time with that dog. And well, it kind of didn't like him at times because he was very, in his words, the wolf side of him was very dominant, and he almost is like got tore up a couple times. So again, very good dog actor because he was secretly kind of vicious.
Man, interesting.
So also a monstrous animal that likes to kill people.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Not even acting. He's doing great.
That dog is doing great. He's biting my arm off. Yeah, it's great. It works perfectly for this scene.
Exactly.
Keep filming.
Keep filming. My arm!
And I would say afterwards that it just does a great job of introducing our cast in a, and I know people don't, or this seems almost pretentious to say, but it's like in a very organic and natural way. But it's like, yeah, you don't, there's ways to introduce characters. It's like, okay, yeah. Hey, what is it? I can't remember the name. Grant, you're our fearless leader. What do you have to say about it? There was none of that. It was just the roles were established. It was told environmentally. It's like Clark's was with the dogs. McCready was in his shack destroying his chess machine.
Yeah.
The doctor was doing things. What is it? I've got to have the cast list here. I'm just not gonna. I'm gonna stop referring to these people as that guy or Kurt Russell or Keith David. By the way, again, Kurt Russell, Keith David, all-star cast, and we
Oh,
get
yeah.
introduced to them very early on, and again, seeing all these players and even with the initial knowledge, kind of knowing what's going on, it's good to see. It's good to see them before things set.
Mhm.
Start taking part.
Or you mean before the thing starts taking part?
Oh yeah, before
Okay.
before that thing.
Okay.
Before that thing. I mean, yeah, well, I definitely do feel like we have a very large cast, but we also do a good job of getting to know our cast. Of like, well, depending on who you're rooting for, you either get to know who all of the people that you're supposed to be afraid they're going to die are, or your hit list if you're rooting for the thing.
What I thought was funny, I didn't even bother to count. Joseph, you mentioned it was 12 guys. I'm like, so within the first 20 minutes, we get a dog and we get 12 angry men. That's what we get.
No.
So
Yeah, I was afraid after we had watched, and I say after we covered Dune, I was like, has nostalgia blinded me a little bit? Is this just going to be a slow burn and then everyone's going to be bored to tears? And then they go to the Norwegian base. Well, first of all, the what is it? The was it Norwegian Slugger of the Year throws a grenade at his own helicopter.
Yeah. Great job. Great job.
Speaking of that, a little bit of intentional I say comedy, a little dark, but also kind of comedic at times, kind of that moment and the couch scene.
Oh, yes.
The afterwards.
Yes, I know exactly
when
what you're talking
Grant
about.
when Gary is the last one tied to the couch.
that's
Get me
right.
off this
Yes.
freaking couch. No,
You
I don't want to
don't
spend the rest of
mind.
I don't want to spend the rest of my time down here tied to this freaking couch.
Oh yeah, favorite line.
Gonna use that in
And
future.
go ahead.
I'm gonna find a way to use that in the future. I don't know how, but I will.
I'm gonna store that away.
Yeah.
And let's see. Just the minute they find the Norwegian base and they find everything,
Mm-hmm.
mainly I suppose the first good bit of the makeup effects is the was it the gunshot wound on was it Knowles, but the real sculpture work by Rob Botton and his team. He was the special effects supervisor. Again, you're going to be hearing a lot of Mr. Botton later on. But the first thing of the two-headed thing, like that sculpture piece, that very much sets the first thing with the long, like establishing shots of the snow set the tone of isolation, and then that camp with the thing corpse just set the feeling of unease. I keep saying unease in these slow burn films. There's a better word for it, but just
It's an easy film. It's very
really
tense.
is.
It's suspense, right?
Tense.
It's suspense.
Tense is a good one.
Yeah, it's either suspense or tense. It's not in the first 30 seconds. You don't have something jumping out at you, scaring you, shrieking, and being obnoxious. It's what is going on? What's wrong here? What's going on with the situation? Oh, there's a weird two-headed creature thing that was almost burned to death. What's going on with that?
And why does it have functioning human organs?
Yeah.
Right. Any lesser horror film would have had a jump scare at around this time, probably by now. But Carpenter very much uses his jump scares wisely, I would say, in this film.
Yeah, there's a few of them, and all of them are annoying.
But they all pay off.
Yeah, but
there's only a few pass by the door frame with loud noise. There's two, and again this is the era even before, I guess, would say I'm not going to say jump scares were common, but where it sort of became recognized. This is the era before people realized it was kind of a
cliche,
tropey cliche thing. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like jump scares were cliche from the moment that they first existed. Like
from the minute someone jumped out at someone behind the corner, it's like, yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, no, you could not. If humanity never does that ever again,
It'll be too soon.
You will still have done it too many times, and that was the first time anyone ever did it. And then we just kept doing it because nobody shot the guy who did it the first time.
And as soon as they bring the thing back in, and I would say cinematography wise, again, we're gonna be name dropping here. Just Carpenter's team with the effects, and man, can't find the name again, but he's kind of the main photography lead for most of John Carpenter's work. But just the fact that it's like there's focus put on the dog a lot. You guys picked up on that a lot. Again, very much is the good boy not good? That got me. I had to hold in a lot. Again, finding the Norwegian thing was like, okay, yeah, I can reveal a few of my cards. It's like, oh yeah, it's got, but guys, check it out, it's got human organs. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it would be. I was thinking about this. I think we talked about it a little bit after watching it. That what would it be like if someone had never heard of this movie and was just watching it with no expectations? Because there's a lot of time that you spend following the dog around, where the camera spends following the dog walking around the compound, not doing anything. Like maybe it gets pet, or maybe it like rubs against someone's leg, but it's not. You're like, okay, why do we care about this dog? Why do we care about this dog? And then finally there's a point where someone says, why have you let this dog wander around the compound all day? Go put it with the other dogs. And they do. And then all of the other dogs are immediately, nope, this is wrong. Stop it. Get this out of here. We don't like it. Stop. And you're like, oh, okay. Something is like, if you didn't know that something was wrong.
Something's wrong. It's wrong.
And that's when you remember the dog's been walking around the compound all day. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. Yep.
And it claims its first, again, part of the big speculation and the big discussion thing is who gets assimilated first, or who gets partially assimilated, because spoilers for you guys too, there was apparently some production stuff, not like leaks or anything, but it's like, I think someone on the writing team or someone close to the project said someone infected by the thing, or partially assimilated by the thing, or even fully replaced by the thing, don't know that they've been replaced.
Yep, so I heard that.
It's that little extra bit of just primal fear.
Yeah.
That's actually, I did not know that, which is even worse, because if you're infected with something and if you're being replaced, but you don't know that you're the replacement until it's time for you to like activate and start attacking people.
Yeah, alien sleeper agent mode.
Yeah, you're like
Activation code Ronald McDonald. I'm sorry, no, cut that out. Bad joke.
But yeah, if you're walking around thinking, I am a normal human. I am doing normal human things.
Why do I not like fire a little extra all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a good touch. I don't know if that was Carpenter's choice or whose it was, but just from what you said, Joseph, I think, it was just like, apparently when they were having conversations, when the two characters or a few characters having conversations with one another, unless it was a particular scene where the thing was about to come out of a person, they didn't know. The actors didn't know who was who, and so it made it more believable. So I thought that was a very cool touch, because we were almost as clueless as the actors were when they were filming it. So I think that was pretty cool.
Well, that means they had to have filmed it sequentially, right? They had to film the movie in order.
Mostly,
right?
Yeah. And again, of course, they were. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say, if you're going to preserve the suspense for the actors so they can react genuinely, which is cool, they have to film that in order. Which.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. And of course, again, if they're filming like that works well for, again, filming the kennel scene, because the thing is not a person. Well, the thing is not known to be a person in universe. It's like, oh, what did that dog turn into? It's like, no, this could be a person now. And again, just the dog thing. Oh, that I actually felt bad. I felt like I should have warned you guys, but that would have ruined not the surprise, because it's like, oh, surprise, mutilation. I gotcha. Yeah, no, but it was, it's hard to describe, so I'm just gonna let you guys describe it. Hey, 3 words or less. No.
It's got a bunch of dog heads. I remember there being more than one dog head, and also there's a lot of connective tissue, like muscly, tendony pieces that don't have any skin over them. There's a lot of flesh-colored portions that are not flesh.
There's a lot of a good term for it is a good disgusting term for it is biomass.
Yes, there is
just a lot of that, and it's
no. You need to use more. You need to use word like sinews and tissue and grotesquerie, because all of those are applicable. It looks like
we can't be technical here. Only disgusted.
It looks like there's a Lovecraftian horror, and someone cut a chunk of it off, and it started walking around on its own. And you're like, "Excuse you, sir, could you not?"
Incomprehensible. Have a nice day.
Yes, incomprehensible. Yeah, there you go. That's it. Incomprehensible. Have a nice day. Slap that on a sticker, and that describes the thing.
I have to admit, though, that the thing just in general, you'll probably go into it more, Joseph, with the practical effects, but both the monster itself and the explosions, the set pieces, looked fantastic. Even today, I thought they were very well done. And particularly with the monster, it just looked gross. It was just a gross looking thing that you didn't want anywhere near you. And rumor has it, Joseph, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, apparently they actually had actors vomiting on set because of how gross and realistic these practical effects looked.
There was I can't remember about the vomiting thing, but there was a lot of double takes and a lot of lot of definite and again, they filmed some of this on the Universal backlot. They filmed some of this at one of some of Universal Studio thing, and they would have, I think where you heard the vomiting thing was they would have people going in full costume, because these guys are in 3 layers of winter gear, a costume with 3 layers of winter gear, and they also shot it in a refrigerated set, so they kind of needed it too. And these guys are in full costume, and then some days it's all right, yeah, we finished filming the what is it, I guess the hospitals, not the hospital scene, but the medibay scene where it's the guy gets his arms bit off and there's blood and there's guts everywhere, and there's people, or what is it, Knowles had his weird gnarly hand, and they would walk in there and they'd be eating their sandwiches and they'd just be having lunch, and people would just look at them like, what are you filming? What is happening? And it would throw, to them it was just Tuesday. They're just filming where they light the dog prop on fire. Again, not the dog, but the thing dog prop on fire. And to everyone else, it just looked like they got through running through a meat grinder.
Well, yeah.
That's the way to describe it, pretty much.
Yeah.
The thing, its whole deal is that it's assimilating these different animals and making copies of them, and people as well. And it definitely does look like you took a bunch of animals and you stuck them in a blender together,
and some aliens too.
Yes, you took a bunch of living organisms and stuck them in a blender together, and then poured it out, and then congealed it into something roughly 3-dimensional. Like, but you didn't like hit blender. You didn't blend for long enough to actually get it homogenized. You just pulsed. You pulsed a couple times, so it's like
It was
there's
not pureed. It was like there. It was like
no.
it was a chunky blend.
It was a chunky blend. That was
You put the sardines in the blender, but you didn't do it long enough. Now
Yeah,
they're little
yeah.
bones.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly right. Except it wasn't sardines. It was like dead rats and dogs and human faces.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's
It's sad because it's true, but still. Oh.
Well, on to prettier things. Kurt Russell was amazing.
Oh yes.
I like him in everything, but I know this was one of his earlier roles, like I think it was one of his first main roles in a film, and he just killed it. He was great.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Amazingly, he was originally not meant to be the lead. I mean, RJ McCready was just originally meant to be like just another member of the ensemble, and was it Carpenter wasn't even sure who to cast for him, and was it he had worked with Kurt Russell for was it Escape from New York? Again, he was Snake Plissken again, like big movie for him there, big movie for the both of them there. And so really he was just calling him as like a casting consultant. It's like, oh yeah, he should be like this, or it's like, oh, he's as this role got developed into like the kind of the reluctant leader kind of archetype, as that got brought in, he's like, eventually it's just sort of like, hey Kurt, do you just want to play this? And he's like, I couldn't. Well, maybe. So
That sounds
he
like
definitely succeeds in that role very much.
I was going to say that kind of sounds like you guys have probably both heard the story of how Harrison Ford got the role of Han Solo. It was like he was working, I don't know if it's the casting director, I'm probably going to totally mess up the story, but basically he was just reading roles to help other people with their lines to practice for the auditions, and then he ended up reading the role for Han, just reading through the lines to kind of help, and then he ended up getting the role. So it's just kind of funny how that works out. Now he's one of those iconic
ever since.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the rest of the ensemble, I feel like everybody gets a moment to. It's hard in an ensemble thing, and again, everybody doesn't get a moment always, but I feel like everybody gets enough. And it's not just because they're cut down to these like stock characters, like, oh yeah, the funny guy, or like the radio operator, or the cook or something. It's like, they're given enough depth that it goes beyond that, and again, you start to feel a little something, but you're not given enough to know it's like, oh, such and such wouldn't do that. Well, they're a thing. No, you're given just enough that you as an audience member, you're still guessing. It's like in universe, I'm sure it's like, oh yeah, there's little things there, and there are a few things there, like again, the big thing about like the blood bank with like, we never really did find out if Gary wasn't a thing, or didn't know if he was a thing, but we never did find out if like someone stole Gary's key to sabotage all the blood, or if Copper was a thing, but didn't transform after he got his arms bit off. I don't know. Again, there's a lot of tangled webs.
We do know how that worked, because there were two guys that borrowed someone, I think it was Gary's key, and because they're gonna go store a thing body in the storage area, and they have the keys. These two subordinate characters, I can't remember which two they are going to store it in that storage area. One of them leaves, the other one gets taken over, gets thinged, and when the guy comes back, he drops the keys and runs out. Ooh. And that's how the thing gets the keys. And then they later returns the keys once it's not like being one of the versions of the thing returns the keys.
That's right. And they realize they make an effort to, like, the sound design makes an effort for like the keys to be hitting the ground once he realizes he's
You hear the keys hit the
Magnificent.
ground. Yep. So yeah, there are
I'm
no.
going to turn in my thing expert badge now.
No, it's okay. That was the one piece of trivia that I know that you didn't. So,
Very nice, very good.
yeah, there aren't really any plot holes in that movie. Like it's all coherent.
Very
'Cause,
tight script.
yeah, there are things where you're not sure the order of events on purpose because it maintains the suspense. But I think there's a logically coherent story through the whole thing that doesn't unravel if you look at it too long.
Yeah.
So, unlike a lot of horror movies where it's like, well, okay, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just do this or that? Well, they can't leave. They're in Antarctica.
Yep.
Winter is coming.
Yeah, I'll probably end up talking about this when we get to favorite scenes, but I think they do a very good job just making you question everyone. Like it's never like this person. I mean, you're pretty certain McReady is in the clear, but you don't know, and that. So I thought that was interesting.
I do have one point about that. There's one thing that works against the movie, which isn't. It's not even a fault of the movie. It's a fault of someone who watches movies watching this movie. Is I never once suspected that McCready was actually a thing, because the movie, by the point where there was suspicion put on him, because you see his like burned uniform and you're like, oh, did he get thinged or something? He's already been established as the leader character, the main character, and so it doesn't make any sense in the movie for the main character to be the villain at that point. Like not in this setup. It doesn't make any sense for him to
Right.
be the. So it's like, okay, I know he's not the villain because I know he's the main character.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been extremely like again going to this first time, but also being someone who watches movies. I totally agree that knowing Kurt Russell's the main character, knowing it was extremely unlikely that he was going to be it. But if he had ended up being a thing towards the end of the movie or at the very end, if we even talk about that, that I wouldn't have been surprised if they had pulled that. I feel like they could have pulled it and it would have still worked.
That actually would have surprised me. There's very few twists that surprise me in movies. That would have actually surprised me if he was a thing at the end, because it would have been very counter trope.
Yeah.
So.
Not ragging on Carpenter, but I think if Kurt Russell was not cast as McCready, they might have done that. But kind of the minute you do that, the minute you bring on the up and coming, and it's not that the rest of these actors aren't already, they've got a little bit of pedigree, but the minute you bring on like the main, the big actor to play the main character, it's sort of like you've either got to go all in and plan on subverting this from the beginning, which he might have when he was an ensemble character, but the minute he became like the main character, I think that went out the window. And I'm not going to say the movie suffers for it, but that's definitely an avenue that would have been pretty interesting to explore that kind of didn't wind up being, pursued for those obvious reasons. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the movie suffers for it. It's not a problem with the movie.
Oh no, it's just like a what could have been sort of
right.
thing. Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like I watch movies, so I know things going into a movie, which isn't the movie's fault. Yes, I drink and I know things. Takes a sip of my water. Yeah, so it's one of the problems. The biggest problem watching any masterpiece of film that isn't like about film. The problem with watching anything that's about film, any masterpiece, is that you know things about movies and can expect things going into them. So it's not really a criticism of the movie. It's just an observation.
Sure.
Oh yeah. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for.
Oh.
Yeah, again, I said we weren't going to go scene by scene, and we wound up kind of going through the first, I would say the first act and a half of the movie. But eeny, meeny, miny, Jack, what was your favorite scene?
Favorite scene? Pretty easily for me was the blood test scene. Ooh. I thought that was a very well done scene. Just because at that point they have given you reason to suspect everyone that McCready's testing. And especially I think you have Keith David's character and you have, I'm terrible with the names, but the guy who had the key that they were suspecting, they were both I think. Thank you. So you had he and Keith David's character. They were both very unwilling, like they very much did not like being tied down to be tested. So it made you and McCready suspect them the most. That's why they were going to do them last, which is why and first off, just to rewind a bit, when he's doing the test of blood, you don't exactly know what's going to happen. You know that he's said the thing will react if its blood is, feels pain, basically, is what he said. Right. And so we're seeing all these people get tested and nothing happens. So we're starting to question, okay, does the test even work? Maybe everything's okay. And we're starting to almost get into this sense of calm. And then you do the test. And I was watching a video later, just today, with that scene again. And when he touches it and the thing blood, the blood turns into the thing, I jumped again. It's just, it's that ridiculous and that good of a jump scare. And that is my favorite scene.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is also my favorite scene, and I'm annoyed that you took
no variety.
Yeah, no, I think that is the best scene because yeah, it's the best scene. Well, you said what's the favorite, and I've immediately thought of that one because it's at the perfect point of the movie where you are starting to worry about everyone, and so the audience actually has the problem of I don't know who to trust, and so I can't feel invested in the characters because I don't know who to trust. So you need that scene to remind everyone these are the people that are still human, and these are the people who are things. And then you have the action piece of the things reacting to being found out. Because there's is it Palmer is the guy's name? I think is the first one that they find out.
Palmer was the one that was on the couch. The first one they find is, and I've been getting the names wrong, and I got a cast list here. It's the redhead who's I think he's Knowles, but yeah, the redhead's the first one. His hands, he's the one with the hands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first one that they find out in the blood testing scene, but whatever.
Then yeah, it is Palmer. You're right.
Yeah, they find him, and then he as soon as he's found out, he tries to attack them, and the guy gets his head eaten off. But you have this moment of I now know there's a few people I can trust, and now I can root for them to not die. At the point in the movie where you're wondering about everyone. So I think that works really well, and also it's very well done from a technical standpoint. The Palmer thing eating Window's head off and screaming and everything that's happening with it is great. It's horrifying, but it's great in that way.
It's horrifying, so it accomplishes its mission.
Yes, in a horror movie, being horrifying is a good thing. Funny how that works.
And of course, the blowtorch doesn't work.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
Time.
I do think that's the one thing that was a little bit annoying about that scene is that it goes on for too long. Obviously, the blowtorch doesn't work because they need to have the suspense build, but it goes on for just a little bit too long for my taste. That's the one criticism I have of that scene is that it's just a little too much of okay, we understand it's suspenseful, we understand it's stressful, we understand everyone's about to die. The movie isn't over yet. The blowtorch can activate now.
But I like the fact that the jump scare was so good that it caused McCready to drop the flamethrower and for it to get damaged, and it's it just made things so much worse.
Yep. I mean, it does explain why it doesn't work because he drops it, but it goes on from a movie standpoint. It goes on for longer than necessary. I think if I have to pick a secondary scene, I would say the two next best scenes are the doctor guy figuring things out ahead of time, where he doesn't want to say anything because he doesn't want everyone to panic. But he's also realizing that things are a lot worse than they think they are. And there's that kind of slow buildup of he's studying the creature and he's realizing, this is worse. This isn't just a monster. This is a really big problem. And then obviously the end scene, the ambiguity of the end scene is excellent. I don't know if we want to talk about that yet or if we want to save that for later.
I would actually say that as one of my favorites. Kind of the ending of them, just from a practical standpoint, as good as all the things are, just them blowing up the whole base and just like them throwing Molotovs into the room. It's just like, oh yeah, me like destruction. No, it's like they're destroying this set,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's done very well. And again, we've got the thing's final form in all its complete horror, which, again, more effects thing. It was originally going to be like there was originally going to be a stop motion battle with it, and they just said, yeah, that's it was going to be bigger and it was going to move around in stop motion and stuff, and they just said, that kind of doesn't fit with the rest of the effects. So that's why McCready just tosses a thing of dynamite at it and it blows up, which
Yeah.
I like a little better. And again, it's just Childs is not human. You can tell, again, people have said it's like, oh, you can't see his breath. Oh, he took the scotch that they were drinking. He didn't like check it. He wasn't suspicious of it. He just drank it, like, kind of just to, oh, I am human. I am offered drink. I drink it. It's like, but again, that's the whole point. It's like, okay, he's a thing. Doesn't matter. They're both dead.
Yeah, I've heard both for and against for Keith David's character. I've heard the for him being the thing is obviously he drinks the drink and he doesn't even bother to check whether or not it's gasoline because they're using it for the Molotovs and all that. So he doesn't bother to check that. But a reason that he wouldn't be is because apparently he still has like his earring or something, and apparently the thing is not able to replicate those sorts of things. It can only replicate the human elements. So,
I mean, isn't he wearing different clothes at that point, though?
I think so. And he doesn't have that many. He doesn't have that much like that many layers of clothing on either. So that's interesting.
Especially considering it's like minus 80 degrees or something at that point.
Yeah, McCready looks like a straight up ghost, like covered in frost and ice, and he's just like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, I like the interpretation that because McCready never drinks from that bottle that he hands Childs. You never see him drink from it. So I like the interpretation that bottle is full of gasoline, and he hands it to Childs as though it's alcohol, and Childs drinks just gasoline because he's a thing, so it doesn't matter. And then he's laughing, and then McCready is laughing because he knows it.
Right.
He now understands, and now he's going to set the guy on fire because he's just drank gasoline.
Yeah, no, I like that too. I think that works. I was just saying, again, I've heard both sides, but as far as an ending and what I like the best, yes, I definitely prefer, Kurt Russell being like, okay, I know what you are, and yeah, you're going to die.
That definitely is a little more hopeful.
Yes.
And let's see. Okay, we've got our favorite scenes. All right. Since everybody's favorite scene was kind of that one, I got a quick, not really game. Okay. Little effects. Again, let's call this a thing hunt, if you will.
Oh.
Okay.
No.
There is one effect in that scene that is very unlikely, and it actually has to do with McCready. It's when It's when the blood like comes out and shrieks and like jumps in the air. There's one thing that if you watch it again, if you watch that scene again and watch what I'm about to tell you, you're never going to see it the same again. Top 10 facts that science in movie making refuses to answer, that sort of thing. Okay. Well, it's when he's about to test. He's like, when I'm trying to think of the proper shot term, and again, film majors sue me, but it's like when the kind of the mid shot with McCready holding the thing of Palmer's blood, and it's like, it just cut back from Keith David saying, "Oh, so that makes you a murderer, huh?" Or that something about like, this test's a crock of garbage or something. And it's like, "Oh, I figured you'd say that, Childs." When he's saying that and holding the petri dish of blood in frame, that's a fake hand holding the petri dish. It's a fake hand with hydraulics in it that cause the blood in the petri dish to shoot out. It's like, again, it's not actually blood. It's like the animatronic of the blood shooting out.
Interesting. That is kind of cool.
That is cool.
Mm-hmm. And again, the minute you pull it back, it's like, oh yeah, that's a fake hand. But again, is very, very interesting there. And again, this was not really a thing hunt as much as it was his. I don't know how to make games.
Well, it's kind of fair enough. I think I saw somewhere else that the scene where the one doctor is trying to use the defibrillator on the guy,
Oh yeah,
the dead guy who's actually a thing, and then it opens up and the mouth, the thing mouth on the stomach eats his hands. They had an actual, I think it was like an army vet who had lost his hands that was as a stunt double who had like prosthetic hands, and that's what gets eaten off.
that is exactly what happens. And it's not even that, it's shot in a way that makes you think, oh yeah, they what is it? They just had these prosthetic hands that they put in there, and they got a couple takes of that. No, that scene was probably the most painstaking one of the shoot because the actor for that one, the actor who played Norris, Charles Hallahan, they did the whole thing where he had a fake gut, and his face and his shoulders were him, and he was underneath that table, sort of like sitting like I can imagine it's sort of like a dentist chair where you're just sort of like leaned back a little bit, that sort of thing, or either that or he was. I don't think he was squatting. It was that, or he was like sitting on a box or something. But the first time they did that, it was a real tearaway stomach. It's like that effect almost looks like it was early computer effects, just because of how sudden it tears away. No, that's like a latex stomach that covers a hydraulic set of like a real hydraulic set of chompers that had to come down with enough force on the fake arms made out of rubber bones and fake blood and stuff, and like gel, that they had to snap on them and like hold them enough for them to be like ripped off. It's like they had to use the guy with no arms, not because like oh it's authentic. It's like that was a real thing of hydraulics that could have torn somebody's arms off.
Man.
And the other thing was that they had to do it twice because it took them most of the day to set it up. And the first time, Mr. Botten, he's like, oh yeah, I initially wanted like a bunch of saliva and stuff to shoot out. And it's like, after they got it, it took them a while to set it up, of course. And it chomped down, it pulled the arms up, and it just looked like, in his words, it looked like a fountain in Vegas. And it's like doing the thing, and John's like, all right, good, very good, thank you, Mr. Bobbitt. What was that? What was that? It looked awful. He's like, oh. And then Bobbitt's like says like, oh, so we're doing it again. And then like half his crew and Charlie Hallahan's like, oh yeah, what's wrong? He's like, well, that was the only fake stomach that was the only fake stomach we had. We've got to make another one. And it's like, we've got to do this today. This has to get done by tonight. And it's just like, yep. And then they made another fake stomach to tear open. And then they did it again. And that's the one you see in the film.
Wow.
Also, the armless vet. Again, I'm pretty sure he was a vet, but it's like he wore a mask. He wore a realistic latex mask of Richard Dysart, and it's just, again, the big scene where he's like reared back and screaming. Yeah, that's a mask, which you can't tell. It's that good that you can't tell that he's just wearing a mask of another person. It's like one of those darn Mission Impossible things, except it's real.
Wait, Mission Impossible isn't real?
Oh, Jack.
Oh, you poor child.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to
what? No, it can't be.
Jack, did you think that when the characters die in movies, the actors die?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Maybe.
That's why I haven't seen what is it? That's why I haven't seen Hugh Jackman in a while. He's not been in anything.
He's still alive? Now the big question with the going back to like all this, the effects, and then with Kurt Russell with the fake arm. The question is, has Kurt Russell always had a fake arm, and how has he been able to hide that so well? That's sort of my question.
Everything afterwards is just like, by then it's like, yeah, listen, he's gonna have to have this arm all the time. We're just gonna give him the best fake skin we can find. Yeah. Joe, I don't think you can hear us. When are we kicking Jack off the podcast? I mean, yeah, about that.
Oh, I didn't hear anything. Mr. Scrappy Doo over here.
Whoa. And I got a lot more trivia. I know we're going into an hour. I know, but actually we're going a little under an hour. For all the content we have, we're probably going to be, under an hour after all the editing. But yeah, another little fun fact, Ennio Morricone, just famous composer, pretty much the John Williams of the 80s. Again, I know that's a bad comparison because it's like saying one Renaissance painter is the Renaissance painter of the yada yada, but still, scorer of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, tons of other things. But he did the very synthy, very minimalistic, and very good soundtrack for this film.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a good soundtrack. I liked it.
Yep. Another long-time partner with Carpenter on his stuff. Long time. Occasional. Not as much as Kurt Russell or Robert Watton. But, And let's see, what are some other weird things I could come up with to tell you guys? And when I say come up with, it's like I've got a small, very large list of things about this.
We should do like a I can't remember the term, but like a almost like a speed round kind of thing. Just hit us, go for it.
Oh, all right, yeah, okay. Well, most of the things are, of course, very slimy, very disgusting, very gross is a very wonderful word. It's just very disgusting. Most of the effects on set did not look that way. Most of the slime of like the things, again, the thing things,
yeah,
the thing things were achieved by putting a grease layer. And again, this is 82, where we are in film. This is film. They put a grease layer on the film where, like, again, they shot the thing to give, like, they made the darks darker, and they made the thing itself very shiny and viscous and all this other revolting crap. It's a marvel of technical achievement, and because of that, it is the most revolting thing you could probably see. But yeah, that was actually achieved in post-production with that gel layer. We could do a whole thing on just like old movie magic stuff. But again, another big thing. Let's see. Another practical thing. Again, I can't remember names. I got them right here, and I can't remember them. The Norris head. Oh, by the way, just.
Yeah.
The Norris head peeking out from under the desk was just achieved by there being they raised the floor itself, I think, 2 feet to allow for all the puppeteers and stuff to have enough space to work with. And that was just there was a puppeteer having a thing on the stick behind the desk. It's like it was just shot in a way that it hid that very well, and they just puppeteered it looking out, and with its eye stalks and its little spindly legs. Also, that was that was the best part of the movie, in the sense where not the best part of the watch party. Just watching you do is like, oh
yeah,
Spider Norris.
I thought the dog thing would be bad, and it was, but that that
That
got you guys really bad.
that was
And
about
I
10
couldn't help but be a little entertained.
that was about 10 gallons of nope in a 5-pound bag. That head coming off.
Ooh.
Nope, 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 nope. Yeah, that was about
Now
how.
it has legs. Oh, it's a spider. It's crawling away. Oh,
Yeah,
it's still there.
You could have
gotta be kidding me.
you could have stopped at any point. Any point you could have not done that, and you just kept going, and you just kept going.
But he did stop. He stopped at the door, and we got that good line from Palmer before it got torched. And speaking of the head thing, when it like stretches off and comes off, and like there's all that green stuff in there, was it Bobbit was actually inspired kind of by comics, like kind of those 80s comics, not of the head coming off, but like the slime. It had like, it had that little bubble in there, and it was like stuff like that. He said he was pretty inspired by like just how they would draw slime and goop in like comics and stuff, and it's like, it'd have that little bubble, and like I drew a lot from that. It's like, nice, interesting, sick, but nice. And the effect was actually achieved by I can't think of a list, but there was essentially like a list of things they put together. It's like, all right, we don't know how to make this slime. Let's melt crayons. Let's get paint thinner. Let's get mayonnaise, ketchup, food color. It's just, it was the most noxious stuff. It's like everyone on set was saying, "What is that smell?" It was like, it was very, very noxious, but it achieved the effect very well. And there's another thing about that, another interesting actual on-set thing. It was they were about to film it, and John said, "Oh yeah, but where's the fire bar?" He's like, "I'm sorry, fire bar, John." And the fire bar is like, they would put a little thing, is like a small bar of like, not like actual gas or anything, but it's like just enough to put a little bit of fire at the bottom of the camera to achieve like the effect of like, oh yeah, you're filming something on fire, even though you don't want to light it on fire, because this is when they're burning the Norris thing, and it's the head stretching off. Is like, they're trying to achieve that effect, and it's like, all right, go ahead, and they got like this production assistant or something, like, all right, go ahead and light the gas line. And he's just getting like they just pull out a lighter, and he's trying to light it. It's just like, and they do it, and then the minute they do, it ignites the fumes in the room. Like the paint thinner fumes and all the melted crayons and all the chemicals. It ignites it, and it sets the thing on fire.
Nice.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Spider Norris.
It actually sets the Norris head on fire. And it set a lot of things on fire, actually, because the whole room was filled with fumes. And after they were able to paddle that out, he said literally it was like an effect in the old cartoon where it's like, the bomb blows up in someone's face and they got like soot in their face, and they're like it's like, it was that, except it was a whole crew of people. And by the time they were able to see, like, they noticed it was still burning. And Bobbitt said, "Oh no, it's on fire." And then John Carpenter said, like, "Well, what are you waiting for? Put it out, you idiot." And they put it out, and then they had to make an entire new one because it was ruined. But they still got the shot.
They still got the shot. Again, it was described by, and this is all this stuff is not coming from a lot of research. Most of it comes from the making of the thing, sort of like hour-long little mini documentary that's probably attached with most of the Blu-rays nowadays. I can't remember the exact title, but again, if you look up "thing behind the scenes documentary," that's where you're going to get most of this. And it's actually told by Carpenter and Bobbitt with a lot more just passion behind it. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And let's see, there was one other thing that I was about to say before I got into where the sources were. Let's see. The dog, not the dog thing, but the dog before it becomes the thing, before the head splits open like a blooming flower. Before that, it was
well, it was a statue essentially. It was a sculpture, and people were walking on set. I remember this was an interview with Keith David and I think the guy who plays was it Charlie Hallahan, and it's like, oh yeah, we walked in and we were walking in on set, and it's like they double take for a second. It's like, oh, it's a dog. Oh, wait a minute. It's like it was good enough to like fool people into thinking it was an actual dog.
Man, that is a good practical effect right there.
Oh yeah. And there was, I keep saying I'm pulling a Columbo. Just one more thing, sir. There is one more big one, and it's involving the. It's not involving the Norris head. I gotta cycle through all these disgusting creatures in my mind. And
No, you're good.
Oh.
While you're pulling that up, did either of you guys watch the original thing? It's based off Thing from Another World from 1951.
Nope.
I have only seen bits and pieces, and that is mainly of the. I can't remember the actor, of course not. He was a stuntman of like the Thing coming into the thing and coming into like the building, and they just pelt him with fire. Like they set the dude on fire, and I think for a time it was either the second or the third longest burn stunt. It's just
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it was just interesting. I looked just very briefly on mine, just in sort of the history and the box office stuff for it. So apparently, while you're trying to find that piece of trivia there, Joseph, I'll fill in the silence. So apparently, this film was based off the 1951 film The Thing from Another World, which that itself was based off of the 1938 short story novella Who Goes There. So that's the origin of it. And then what's kind of interesting is when this film came out, first off, it came out in a bad week because you had two other films that came out that same weekend, which are also considered classics. You had E.T. came out that weekend as number one, a much happier film about an alien from another planet. And you also had Blade Runner, which that came in at number 3 for the box office that weekend, I believe. And what's funny is you'd have The Thing and Blade Runner that weekend, and both films seriously question one's humanity at the end of them. Like, at the end of this, you're wondering who's a thing. At the end of that, you're wondering who's a replicant. So it's kind of funny for those who have seen both films. And
a good dichotomy of the 80s there. You've got E.T. and you've got The Thing.
You just have to feel bad for those who are sitting in the theaters next to each other. Like, you're watching E.T. and you hear screams from the other theater. It's like, what the heck are they watching?
I mean, E.T.'s scary, but I didn't think he was that bad.
I don't think they're watching E.T.
Dude, I wanted to go see the Alien movie. We are watching the Alien movie.
That's right.
All right, well, I'm afraid I can't really... Oh, it's not really... It's just another fun fact. It's just... I think this was called by a couple different people, mainly production. It's like just the biggest sink of latex and special effects foam, like, ever. I'm not gonna say it's like, oh, it broke records, but it's like I think this was the most kind of makeup effects heavy film that Bobbitt has ever done, and I think this is coming from him. And he worked on it. He worked 7-day weeks for pretty much the entire production. And again, this is by him, so of course he's gonna play it up a little bit. But kind of, he had to get checked into a hospital afterwards because he ran himself ragged. He slept at the studio. He would, this was as much of a passion project for him as it was for the rest of the production and the rest of the cast. Again, when you're committed enough to go eat lunch in your makeup effects, and again, it's like, maybe that's done a lot, but when you're in Los Angeles in a heat wave, it was a heat wave, 102, going out in full winter gear for your production, it's like,
man, that's commitment right there.
That's commitment.
And coming from Carpenter, there's a big reason he brought Bobbin and the team in, because his big thing is like, I want to do this monster movie. I want to do this monster movie, but I don't want a guy in a suit. It's like, again, he thought back to the old Universal things. Like, I love him, but in the end, it's like that's not a monster. That's just a guy in a suit. And he said, even Alien, I love Alien, but in the end scene, it's just a guy in a suit. And again, that's not. Even he is like, yeah, I'm not ragging on Alien. Again, that's another piece of science fiction horror, like another science fiction horror tent pole, which neither of you have also seen. Spoilers for next year's spooky time Jamboree or whatever it is.
Oh, well.
But again, it's like, yeah, it's just a guy in a xenomorph suit. He's like, I wanted to make something that was unique in that sense, and I would say he did.
I agree.
Achievement unlocked. I think that.
All right, guys. Anything else you want to say about The Thing before we lock it away, for the winter or for however long it was under the ice?
Before we stick it into a vault and set the entire thing on fire so that it doesn't escape.
Yep, and then test each one of ours bloods and stuff. Yeah.
I mean that was a very good movie. It definitely holds up. For seeing it for the first time as an adult, almost 40 years later, it definitely holds up.
I agree.
From a effects wise, from an acting wise, from a story wise, very nice.
Yep. Not really my kind of movie. This is usually not what I would go to sit down and watch. But with that being said, it was a very well done movie, and I'm glad I've seen it.
Yep.
Indeed. And I gotta say, I'm really glad you guys wanted to see it. Again, you didn't know what you were getting in for, except this is probably one of my top 5. This is great. And I know we're gonna do that list, and I'm gonna bring it up again, but it's just I know a lot about this movie because it's just, I don't know, it hits all the beats for me, and funnily enough, it didn't hit a lot of beats when it got released, but now it's being recognized. I mean, it's being recognized for the great thing that it is. But yeah, it's just it's a marvel of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for showing us that, Joseph.
Yeah. Thank you for terrifying us with horrifying monstrosities.
That's right.
But of course, I got plenty up my sleeve. Again, I feel bad because, again, it's like, oh man, you've never seen insert horrible thing here. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about like the Serbian film or anything. It's like, yeah, no, not that bad, but like, kind of just, Alien, The Thing, was it The Exorcist? The Exorcist actually freaked me out. But anyway, that's stuff for another day. But I'm definitely glad to be kind of I don't want to say resident retro movie guy, because that makes me sound like a hipster, and that's a fate worse than death. But yeah, I'm glad I could bring you guys to some old classics. Yeah.
Well, yeah, as long as you keep them coming, we'll keep talking about them.
Oh yeah,
as long as there is this quality.
That's right.
Of course. And and then I'll sneak in a good bad one every now and then.
Well, if it's a good bad one, if it's ironically funny, if it's like a horror movie that makes fun of horror movies.
Right.
Jaws 3D. Or Cabin. If you're talking about that, we need to cover Cabin in the Woods.
All right.
We really need to cover Cabin in the Woods. But anyway,
things to think about for next year, for the next
Spooky
Month Jamboree.
Oh yes, that was a good one. You need to introduce next year's with that voice. Make a note of it.
All right.
But for now, I say we need to close the top of the jack-o'-lantern on this one. And again, this is going to be coming out. This is now going to be coming out in November. But I mean, don't say we didn't try. We definitely tried. So
that's right. We kept with the Monday theme. So
exactly. Well, if you've been listening, great job. You've probably learned a lot about The Thing that you can impress people at parties. People at parties. What am I saying? If you know as much about The Thing as I do, you're not going to parties. But anyway, if you've been listening, Great job. If you haven't really missed too much. Either way, get back to work. No, not the thing. Oh,